Fallout 4 sucked. Period. Now let me break down what I mean, because I do not act as or like being viewed as a fanboy of any game. I love the Fallout universe, but I am not blinded by my love that I cannot openly admit that the past two previous games, Fallout 3 and New Vegas, had glaring issues that left me feeling burned and also salty enough to throw my controller across the room. Fallout 4 was a major nail in the coffin for me as the game had no story. I can already see a person getting ready to slam their fingers on their keyboard and call me some sort of offensive name, trying to discredit me as a person who didn't play the game long enough to know what I'm talking about, or a person who may have never played a Fallout game before in my life. Well, knowing I can't change a person's mind who is already typing some sort of hateful message because they are so blinded by their own failure as a consumer to be blinded by a huge company like Bethesda's bullshit, I'm just going to continue. Fallout 4 has inklings of a story. Nothing more, nothing less. But to go as far as to say that there is in fact a full-fledged story one can sink their teeth into as a role-playing game would be an utter lie. If you haven't played the game as of yet, like I stated earlier, this is your fault if I spoil the game for you. Here is a serious question I would like to ask you, the viewer, whom I assumed played Fallout 4. When did it become so completely obvious that Sean, the main protagonist's son, who had been stolen from you, was actually going to be the leader of the Institute, and would leave you in the end with the choice to either join up with him or betray whatever pointless faction you had been helping up to that point? I can honestly say I had this entire plot figured out before I had even finished a quarter of the main, and I say this very loosely, main campaign quests. Why is this a problem, you may be asking? Well, because this plot twist that you had been really frozen even longer than you had thought, only to find your son, whom you've been searching for, is in fact the leader of this evil, sinister group that the whole Commonwealth has been warning you against since your awakening, was obviously Bethesda's best attempt to leave you in an oh my god moment as possible. But by this point in the game, when all this is finally confirmed in the story, you've done so many quote-unquote story-driven quests that not only are you not surprised how lazy this major plot twist is, you had already figured it out because the game does almost everything in its power to spell it out for you. Fallout 4's story isn't the only huge monstrous failure as a Fallout game, but it lacks almost every quality of being an actual RPG. But how can this be? It's Fallout, you say! A game based all around RPG elements, such as player freedom, risk and reward, and above all, choice to do anything you want to do, good, bad, or indifferent. Fallout 4 has none of this. This game masks the fact that it doesn't have any core RPG elements very poorly. I noticed this as soon as my first fight within the vault against some radroaches. As I took some damage and dealt some damage, I checked to see my weapon status and armor status, only to be searching confused for about 10 minutes until I realized weapon and armor degradation had been completely stripped from the game. At first I had thought, well, maybe this is just an opening part for people who are new to Fallout and the developers don't want to scare them from playing too early by bombarding them with a near broken weapon they would have to fix and little to no armor, because that would be too much like a real RPG. Also because we are now in the world of Gamers 2016, where most of the younger audiences grew up playing Call of Duty and calling each other faggots on Xbox, would have no clue what to do if they were faced with an actual survival element to an RPG. So the developer just said fuck it and got rid of the degradation system altogether, which was my first true red flag in the game. In Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, the degradation of your weapons and armor were, in my opinion, very crucial things that provided very real thought-provoking scenarios to the game, and how the universe functioned. In Fallout 3, knowing that my hunting rifle was almost broken, but very powerful, would put me in an actual dilemma of choosing to continue using it or stow it in hopes of finding a person or another hunting rifle to repair it. Having the actual choice to worry about these survival elements in an RPG are very much part of the experience of these types of games, and to not have them, especially after having them in both previous installments of the series, shows me two things that I feel the developer was telling us. Number one, players are too stupid to understand how survival RPGs work. And number two, we don't care, just go kill stuff. Alas came even more horrible things that can be added onto the mess of the shell barebone RPG, such as the terrible dialogue tree system. Having the main protagonist speak wasn't a horrible addition to the game. What was horrible is that the game offered no real meaning to what your dialogue choices would have brought when using them. Instead of having all your dialogue options typed out so you know exactly what you'd be saying, and if you play RPGs, you know how critical this is to you actually feeling like you are your character and how you can influence a situation. You are instead given an emotional one-word description that most of the time doesn't actually play out the way they are presented. A perfect example of this is you can ask a female companion about your relationship status, and out of your character's mouth would come some cheesy line that makes you look like a creeper and makes your companion dislike you because of it. But you would have never known this because the dialogue tree option only says one word: relationship. Again, fuck player freedom. In Fallout 4, you are nor good or evil because your choices don't matter. In past Fallout games, there has been a karma system in place that would go up and down based on the good or bad things you had done in the game. This would in turn open or close certain companions you could possibly have, also change how certain NPCs treated you in varying settlements. In Fallout New Vegas, there was a massive improvement to this with the faction relationship status that would help or hinder the way you played by choosing who you may have helped or hurt in the game, instead of like Fallout 3 having a blanket karma system where somehow everybody knew your dirty deeds throughout the wasteland. In New Vegas, you could be vilified by the NCR, but idolized by the Legion, or vice versa, along with every other settlement in the game. Hence giving the player more freedom of choice and having the player actually second guess what they may do in certain situations. In this, the game was able to accomplish varying endings. Fallout 3 had an evil, good, and neutral ending. In Fallout New Vegas, they had faction-based endings that totaled in 4 different possibilities. In Fallout 4, there was one ending, no matter what faction you chose to help, and the ending had no specific tie to anything you had done in the game up to that point. And it was almost like instead of the game being focused around you and your choices, it was a jazz hand conclusion that your character was just a person living in this post-apocalyptic world, and that's it, that's the end. War never changes, haha, fuck you. Why and how this plot was chosen to be Fallout 4's main storyline, I still ask myself to this day when I think about all the different roads that could have been taken. If you have not seen my Fallout 4 game review, I clearly explain how this game's entire plot was built off of one side quest from Fallout 3 called the Replicated Man, in which an escaped android has been on the run from the Institute and had plastic surgery and a memory wipe done, and has been living amongst the human population in the capital wasteland. You are charged by Dr. Zimmer to find this android to be captured. After leaving Zimmer, you are approached by a representative of the Railroad, a synth protection group, and asked to tell Zimmer that the synth is dead and to present him with this synth body part as proof. You then have the choice to do either of those things or do none of them. If you end up doing some research in the wasteland, it leads you back to the head of security of Rivet City, Harkness, whom is the synth. And then he will give you a small description of what he experienced while he was at the Institute. Then once that quest is done, depending on what you chose, that's it. You either killed Harkness, you gave Harkness over to Zimmer, or you protected him with the Railroad, or you did nothing. Player freedom. While this was a fun and interesting quest in the game, how a full-fledged game was made off of this still is so confusing to me. The DLC campaigns had more to offer in Fallout 3 than this one side quest. So I ask again, how did this happen and what were they thinking? It shows how the struggle for ideas were so apparent in Fallout 4 that the things from Fallout 3 were completely recycled as carbon copy events in the main story from Fallout 3, such as the reuse of Liberty Prime and the whole collecting of parts in order for him to work, having to follow Liberty Prime in an explosion-filled romp through the Commonwealth, having him scream Chinese dictatorship crap the entire way. The DLC for Fallout 4 has to be some of the most insulting stuff I've seen being an avid Fallout fan. Why were these DLCs so insulting? Because like I stated in the previous section of the video about how the story struggled to have anything original, so did all the DLC. Automatron being a perfect example. Reusing a character from Fallout 3 and acting like it was a major deal. And yes, I know it's a different person playing the Mechanist. And charging for robot characters that were a main staple from previous Fallout games is nothing more than a cash-in. Far Harbor we all know was a sad attempt to relive Point Lookout's success, and the Nuka World DLC was nothing more than a hyped raider settlement thing. Again, none of which actually offered a more involved or intriguing story to add to the main game whatsoever. Plus, there's all the speculation surrounding Bethesda trying to charge for mods and supposedly plagiarizing a modder's already well-known mod in the Fallout community, which wouldn't be at all surprising, as the writers for this game did not put the effort into the game's main vanilla story to begin with. Why work when you can steal it, right, Bethesda? Fallout 4 has been out for almost a year, and within that year, I have felt myself more disenchanted from modern gaming due to its glaring issues I have talked about in past videos. But to have this game fall so far from what made it great as an RPG, say what you want about Fallout 3. I love the game, and if you don't like it, then oh well. I put in roughly 120 hours into Fallout 4, so I can say I gave the game a fair shake up to this point. I beat the main game in less than 15 hours, and for a Fallout game, the main game would normally take me a lot longer to get to because I would be having so much fun with the rest of the world. But because this world fails and has so much less to offer except a lot of dungeons and only some interesting areas to explore, I found myself getting bored and going back to the main quest to trudge through its painfully long, drawn out, and not at all surprising story. Upon Fallout 4's release, every major gaming outlet screamed Fallout 4's praise and made the game seem like the second coming of Gordon Freeman. All of the major gaming journalist sites barely critiqued the game for its flaws and were quick to laugh and also go as low as belittle at anybody who spoke poorly of the game. Even large game review channels I once respected even seemed very hesitant in speaking on the glaring issues of the game, and swept legitimate bad things under the rug because, you know, Fallout! Alright, I feel like this would be a great time to end the video, and do my next video on my hopes and fears for the next game, as well as my own personal backstory within the Fallout universe and how it became my favorite game franchise. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button, and for more videos like this, as well as game reviews, be sure to subscribe. Looking forward to talking to you guys in the comments, and have a great night.